Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining me. It's really good to have you here. Don't worry, don't panic. Dave will be here shortly. He's got something called a job or something like that. It's it's madness. But so welcome anyway. I will just wait for a few people to join and then introduce really what we're going to do today. Got no special guest today. We just wanted a bit of a catch up, and then when Dave heard that, I think he decided that he wanted to run away. But no, he sent me a text saying, I'm going to be there. That's an old-fashioned thing, isn't it? A text. It was a WhatsApp, actually. He sent me something saying that I'm going to be with you shortly, but he's a bit tied up. I know he has been doing a lot of private training. Oh, hi. Thank you. And Tracy, Mick is here, Claire Thomas, Stephanie Warren, thank you, Paul Stott, Sue Underhill. Got some good people joining us now. Yeah, so it's just a bit about training, a bit about training and things. So police training is tricky enough when you start off. And then you can, after a few years, you start getting a bit familiar with it all and you think, actually, I could do with specialising. It's got itchy feet, you know. Either people are really happy to carry on doing what they're doing or they want to specialise. And that's what me and Dave decided to do. Yeah, thank you. Love the handle. Used to be somebody. Yeah. Oh, I used to be a cop once. Yeah, I'm determined not to be like that. Please don't let me be like that. And am I missing my job? No, I'm not. I'm not missing the job because somebody asked me that today, actually. A new recruit said, are you missing your job? And I'm not, because you can have too much of a good thing. I've said that before, but genuinely, I think it's time I did something else. And it wouldn't have been the end of the world if I had to carry on. Because I was very lucky doing what I did, and it was with such a professional bunch of people. So no, I really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, driving fast cars and shooting guns was great. But it's time, even, to be honest, even putting on the blue light and sirens and going at 140 mile an hour it was no longer that sort of, wow, this is amazing. Do you know what I mean? It was you more thinking about the job you're going to. And some of those long runs used to be almost an hour. I used to travel like 250 miles a day on a good day. Otherwise, between 100 and 150 miles, I would say. And of course, that's all at fast but safe speeds for the circumstances. Somebody said, Lauren says, I've looked looked at a text the other day and not sent a text in over a year. Well, you can't put emojis, it's just not so useful. Or yeah, if I need to communicate with my my wife or my kids, because my wife is obviously down with the kids who are 21, I have to do that messenger thing, which I think is rubbish compared to WhatsApp. But I don't think the youngsters do WhatsApp, but yeah, it's changed so much like it was 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, policing has, yes, but sort of no, you still got bad people, you still got good people. You just got everyone recording you now. So things have been a bit quiet on that side of things. I know I said the Q word, but I used to always say that anyway, because, you know, people haven't been, I think the media have just given the police a bit of a rest, or I think they've just overdone it now. And so I think if somebody else put something about, look, this police officer swore or something, then it probably wouldn't hit the media so much, hopefully. But hopefully they moved on to other things. I know our good colleagues are in Dover at the moment with the protests about immigration and people dying on the beach now and then, which is awful, and also the anti-immigration protests down there as well, or some say right wing or whatever. Until they turn up, you don't know who they are. So I know the police have had to prepare, and they've got a few units down there. But so good luck to them. Hopefully it goes all well with that. Police by consent, hence not forceful. Yeah, I've heard that, but actually, I personally think it should be somebody's just mentioned, this is argument, isn't it? It's nearly as much as the Devon and Cornwall cream on top of the scone, but it's cream on top. Cornish way's better. Just put a little grenade in there. Somebody else saying, should it be police force or police service? I think it should have stayed at police force, personally, because at some point you need to say, no, you need to go. You need to stop doing what you're doing. Because what happens with the service? Well, you've got a police by consent, and therefore I can ignore you. No, that's not correct. So I think people have got confused with that. We're not a police service. We are not here to assist you in everything you do. If you're wrong or you're doing naughty things, then we're here to stop you. So I think the police service was a bad move, personally, but that's me. You might want to see, you can see us on YouTube, you can see on Twitter, you can see on Facebook. I don't do much Facebook because, to be honest, I spend my life on YouTube and Twitter at the moment. Got a personal YouTube channel, Harry Tanguy, which is a little bit more controversial and really discusses certain things like the Dawn Butler. One of my videos there had 20,000 views in a week or something. So it's just giving, do you know what? It's the cops side. Because cops can't give their opinion on things happening in the media at the moment. So, for example, later I might, depending on what happens, hopefully nothing, I might give some comments on the Dover protests or climate protests, things like that. But it's just from the cops side, because cops can't really come on here and do this sort of thing. And I think people are finding it a little bit refreshing. Hello, Scotty Bateman. Evening to you too. And so Dave's not joined. All those who joined, Dave will be joining us very shortly. It's just that he's let me down. He's like that. He does it all the time. I think he just feels that he's a bit too famous now, and he just doesn't want to come on here. It's like, oh, come on. No, actually, he's got a job to do. But he will be here imminently. He's been working. He's been training, doing a private training. He's paid to do more training with Finn so he can learn how to teach searching for gun oil, as opposed to so firearms and things, as opposed to naughty people all the time. So we have got a couple of videos of tracks, and I've got a couple of photographs and videos of my training. I can't really put a lot of training in because firearms officers are particularly shy and don't want to be on camera. Some of our driving stuff will only get complaints about people driving in fast, but you have to train, and you have to be used to driving it fast, and you need to be competent at it. So we do that on runways and things like that, private runways. So not when the planes are landing, not in the middle of Heathrow, just to keep skills up, really. You miss your local hobbies on the beat. I think you might be saying bobbies, Sue, but I'm the best one for misprints on my tweets and things, so I can't talk. So many smaller stations closed. When we had a car accident, the poor guy who attended was working a large area, East Devon. And yeah, we used to go from firearms job down to an RTC, from North Devon down to Oakhampton. I was the passenger, and I actually had a little snooze halfway down. I did. I woke up on a humpback bridge, but I wasn't the driver. Okay, but yeah, that was. But it's funny. It's like it becomes part of it, and I think, well, that's where I can catch up a bit. And then woke up sort of 20 minutes before the end where we arrived, and then we could deal with the road traffic collision on the A30 at Oakhampton. But yeah. Dog handlers always turn up after the action finished. Scotty, I always argue that most of the time, especially with the job, amazing how many, it's like ambulances, they drive through these really slow, massive things, and they tend to be there first. But I call it luck. So yeah, no, I don't really miss driving quickly and things so much at the moment now. I've got a ZZR 1200, of which I am law-abiding on it all the time, and that's a big fast motorbike for those who aren't, and I've always had it. But yeah, so yeah, the government cuts and all that. We won't get too doom and gloom, but this is where we are, isn't it? And I've always said that I've done a couple of podcasts recently for people who have invited me, thought I was remotely interesting. Can you imagine that? And I said, these people who join, and it could be for any job that you all are doing or you have been doing. And I think I survived on Frontline 30 years because I used to dip the oar in to just adjust the direction as your raft went down the rapids. And some people try to paddle uphill to get back up the rapids, and of course they're going to fail, and they get better and twisted, and they say, well, it used to be all right up there, up the top end of the rapids, but it's rubbish down here. But I think you can guide it slightly. You can dip your oar in and point the way that you think it can go by using sort of experience, hopefully. But there's no way, you've got to go with it. You can't change it. So that's what I think about that. David Wilding is here. Thank you. And Penny, my lovely Penny. And Pickles, your dog, I hopefully is there. Got caught up on the M5 in a Tepic. Penny, are you using a different language? Is that an accident? How can you make Tepic into accident? Come on, Penny, that's even worse than me. Now, come on. I'm missing your big smiley face, Penny. Penny is this huge character, and she explodes into the arena wherever you are, and it's lovely to have people like Penny around. She's a beautiful person. What are your thoughts on the huge inconsistency in policing different protests these days? I think the Met are half run by I don't know exactly who has the most power, but it's the Met bosses. You've got Cressida Dick and you've got the mayor. Anyway, and I think it's very political. I think some of the bosses there don't have an awful lot of experience on Frontline, so sometimes they can, in my personal view, is they start believing some of the rhetoric they hear online, and sometimes when I think use of force is required, sometimes it's not tidy, it's not pretty. Some bosses who haven't been on Frontline and had to use use of force forget how messy it can be, and sometimes they can, I think, potentially look at it as a civilian who hasn't been involved in a scrap recently. So there isn't like, oh, put them in a nice little gooseneck and walk them off. If you are, I've always said it takes probably one big copper to detain someone, but it takes 4 to detain them without injuring the subject or the copper. So you basically need a limb each, and these are very, very strong limbs to if you're not basically fighting, knocking them out, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, it's those sorts of things, and this is where criticism is. But then you've got to think, right, I'm going to work every day. I'm getting faced with a violent person most days, especially if I'm in London. London have a lot more backup than the counties do. But of course, you've got somebody there, and it's all about impact factors. And so basically, you're looking at the sex of the person. Is it a female officer against a male officer, against a male subject? Are they different? Yes, they are different. It makes a difference. It's part of the impact factors. It's the size of the subject towards the officer. It's the strength, the skill level, how exhausted they are, whether they're carrying an injury, whether the subjects, hopefully not the police officers, under the influence of alcohol, drugs, mental health. And it is those sorts of things, whether they've got a weapon at hand, whether they've got, they're using vehicles available to them and things like that. And basically objects on the ground near them. So have you got to finish something really, really hard and fast in order to prevent it from deteriorating? And of course, it depends on the environmental features, crowds or venues in the vicinity, and other dangers associated with the incident. So, for example, if I had one individual that I needed, and I was single crewed because of my position, although I had a gun with me, which made me a lot safer. So basically, I found I needed to get control verbally. It's that I'm in charge sort of thing, so that the person thought, I don't really want to take a chance with him, even though under all my body armor and stuff, I was 12 stone. I'm not a big chap. I'm 6 foot, 12 stone. I'm not a big chap. So the fact that maybe I looked like some of the time, shall we say? Let's see. Yeah, some of the times when you're looking pretty aggressive in your equipment that you've got, but it's actually quite useful to do that because it puts people off from wanting to fight you. And it's all about, and that's your impact factors. That's really what you're trying to do. And it got me out of a lot of trouble and stopped me having to fight with an awful lot of people. People are mentioning all the powers of use of force, that side of things. So you are looking at Section 117 of PACE to allow you to use force to carry out the Police and Criminal Elements Act. So you can use reasonable force in order to, if you wanted to search someone, they say, get your hands off me. Well, I can use reasonable force to do that. Common law you can use, and it's reasonable force. And reasonable force can be lethal force, but it rarely is lethal force. Reasonable force can be just basically common law. It can be just a push. And basically it's reasonable for the circumstances. Here we have someone. I'm going to injure. So here we go. Let's add.
There he is.
How are you, my friend? I've been trying to ignore you.
Very good.
I
thought I'd left you long enough. I thought I'd left you hanging long enough.
I've had one of those conversations where it's quite nice to have all the conversations that the notes down the sides and comments, because you sort of the conversation spirals off into different places. But you,
Harry going off at a tangent. I think you should change your name to Harry Tangent anyway.
Oh, mate, it's been that. Middle name's been that for a long time. Basically, what are you up to? What have you been doing all week?
We are in deepest, darkest. I don't actually know where we are. We're in Tamworth, which I'm led to believe is in the Midlands somewhere. It's very nice. There's a steam train going past over there somewhere. There's Finn. Finn's tired because we've been using his brain. So we are on a course, I'm going to sit down now. On an instructor's course with these guys. It probably says it all backwards. The UK College of Scent Dogs. Now it's two ex-Met dog handlers. Called Dr. Rob Ewing, who wrote this amazing book, and his wife Karen Ewing. They're retired now. He obviously did lots and lots of study and became a doctor, and he likes to think that he'll hate me for this. He likes to think he's a knowledge when it comes to learning and dog learning and human learning, and he is, and it's an absolutely fascinating course. And one of the great things is, I know Finn's been retired for 3.5 years, but Finn has absolutely loved it. He's using his brain. It's reignited some of his old working ways.
Is he loving the going back to the old days of training? He must have missed it, but hadn't quite got the physique, bless his heart, now to keep up with it. But
well, that's why this sort of scent work. This sort of scent work is really good for. Well, it's good for any dog, as his book says, scent training for every dog, but specifically older dogs. I mean, Finn's 11.5, but he's not the oldest dog on this course. There's a 12-year-old dog on this course, and the good thing with scent work is that you tailor it to the individual dog's needs. So you wouldn't ask Finn to get up on tabletops and do that sort of search, but he did a couple of really long old searches today, and it keeps his brain going, which is vital for any dog at all, but specifically a dog like Finn that used to work and wants to still work. That's
good for people. It's good for people as well. So an old man such as yourself, it's quite useful too to learn things, isn't it?
Mate, it's always good to learn. Rob was obviously in the Met, so he thinks he knows everything about policing.
Well,
and Karen
being in Devon and Cornwall, I didn't need to learn very much because we don't have any crime down here. So
it's funny to compare stories because whether you work in a massive metropolis force like the Met, or one of the county forces that surround the Met, or whether you work in Devon and Cornwall, there are threads over my 18-year career that probably follow threads in your career. And one of the things Rob did when he was working in the Met was he got a little bit fed up with we do it this way because we've always done it this way, and he said about trying to get sort of evidence-based learning, which is very much what this course is about. And it is nice sometimes to go completely away from policing and see what other people are doing.
It is, mate. And I want to show a bit of video, actually. First of all, it's nice to actually welcome new live people. Lizzie, not that she is alive, but it's nice to have live people joining us. Hey, managed to join you live for once, so it's really good to see you. Oh, and we got please, puppy walker. My pups keep my brain active, thinking of new activities. It's just really good. But let me show this video now of you. Now, this isn't gun oil. This is a bit earlier, and it gives people the exactly a bit of an idea of, and this is sort of a quarter of the way through the video, and how much effort for both of you it consists of. But I'll just play this a bit, mate. Yeah, you should be able to hear, so we can hear you as well. I don't know if you.
I don't really care who you're tracking for.
You end up, and it just shows that his nose is down on the ground, and then he has only the occasional look up.
Mud, that he was soon away. I think we're about to get wet.
So now, of course, you look for a nice, clean, dry bridge to walk over, don't you?
No, not as a dog handler, you don't. You go wherever your dog tells you the scent is.
That's brilliant. And tell me then, Dave, what is it? What's the difference?
Now I've got to get wet. Go on.
What's the difference between you seeing that dog, Finn, and he's not just taking you for a walk?
Yeah. So he did it. He did it yesterday. We were waiting for our search turn. I think I actually put it in a clip on Finn's social media. We were waiting for our turn to search, and then Finn all of a sudden said, well, hang on a sec, I can smell something else. And he started tracking without me asking him to. And when I looked ahead of us, there was a guy walking, and he'd picked his... I didn't know he was there. He'd picked his track and started tracking. And it's about looking at his body language and listening to him and watching him. As humans, we like to think we're in control and we know best. But when you're working one of these animals, you realise you really don't. And your job is to shut up, listen, watch, and see what the dog's telling you. And sure enough, he followed this guy into a little courtyard, and I gave him a reward. So your job, as even on this search course today, so he's learning to search for gun oil. Which we taught him about 18 months ago, a little bit of that, because we were going to use it for a BGT trick, and we never did in the end. And your job is to watch and observe, and whether it be a working dog or a pet dog, this sort of thing is incredible for them, and just to see them bring all their natural instincts out is absolutely fascinating. You see a completely different side to your dog.
Now you've seen him. He looks like he's like, okay, the track's gone from that could be the wind, the breeze just blowing the scent to the side. I know when you go past houses, driveways, it can push it into the driveway, so the dog may go in there.
That's it, yeah.
But then knowledge, is it experience then that shows them okay, it's gone in, but it probably is going to come back out again?
So Finn has a massive toolbox, like Hero and like other experienced dogs, scent work dogs, tracking, trailing dogs. So he has a massive toolbox, so he can switch between disciplines. And if there's ground scent, which we would generally associate with a track, he'll follow it. And if that ground scent goes for whatever reason, maybe you're crossing a road or a motorway or a train line, and all the vehicles have got rid of the ground scent, then he'll start looking for air scent. Now you can imagine if all the ground scent's been disturbed, it will settle somewhere, but probably as air scent. It could settle in the bushes on the other side of the road. And so Finn and Hero and other amazing dogs that do that sort of discipline, they will then, or should then, switch between that, see if they can explore the area to find where the scent is settled, and carry on following that air scent until maybe they find ground scent again. Or if all that's left is this swirling air scent, then they'll follow that. I mean, Finn caught Simon Pegg, the actor. They caught his burglar on a day, and I think it was about 32 or 34 degrees Celsius. It was in the afternoons. It was really hot. The harvest, like here, the harvest had been taken in, so it's really a barren field. And the guy had run straight through this burning hot field. Now, and we didn't get there till about an hour after it had happened. Now, and lots of people out there that would say, well, there's nothing left, there's no point. But actually, Finn worked through everything. He followed the ground disturbance to begin with, and then he found the air scent. And then I think it was a mile or a mile and a half later, he found the guy hiding, still wearing his watch.
And this is video you probably can't see in the sun, but I mean, that's quite a formidable sight to have your Finn has just found your wife, the criminal for the day. So it's lovely to see. And I just think it's. I remember being.
I am. Look how
I know.
Got wet in the river.
It's fantastic.
You know what, mate? It's amazing fun. I mean, we teach tracking to the public as well, and we've got a lady that comes along, and she might be watching this. If she is, I won't say her name, but she's incredible. She's an older lady. Her dog has sort of hip problems, not bad hip problems, but hip problems. Both of them know that they need to keep doing exercise in order to stay as fit and as strong as they possibly can. And she says when she comes to do tracking with us, she's getting exercise, but she doesn't realise she's getting exercise. And the two of them have enormous fun. They are one of the best tracking teams, professional or private, that I've ever worked with. They're both amazing.
Well, somebody's put on here, Martin Wilson would love to try and train PD Rufus from drugs detecting to tracking. How would one even start with that? Well, I can tell him that because a very good colleague of mine, a dog handler, taught me how to teach Arthur to track. And obviously it's very basic level, but there's a video on YouTube, Arthur Dog Harry, and you'll see it. And it's a little border terrier where he tracks. But tell me, Dave, I know you're very open about you can pretty much train any dog to do anything, can't you? And obviously you can't do it the other way around unless you've got drugs available, which I suggest probably.
Yeah, don't tell us about that. So I can't think of a single dog, and I'm talking about obviously the pet world as well, of a single dog that I haven't been able to teach to track. And I've had many hundreds of pet dogs come to me to learn how to track. And actually the Met, and there might be other forces, I'm not sure if the Met still do it, but they certainly used to when I was researching becoming an instructor. They actually teach their drug detection dogs and other search dogs how to track. And the main reason they do that is they want to make sure that the nose, which is a muscle that if you don't use it will become fat and lazy like me, and so they want the nose to be in tip-top condition. And tracking, no, I haven't got any more sausages in. Their tracking is an incredible exercise for building up nose duration. So teaching a dog to track, there are probably more ways, certainly more ways than I know to teach a dog to track. But basic ways, you can start with a scent square. So get their favourite treat, walk out into an area that's not been walked on, field, and you tread down maybe half a metre square, put food in it. Bring the dog out, let the dog sniffle all the food, take them away, repeat that a few times, and then eventually you start doing a scent square with a little bit of a walk away with another scent square on the end. But there's other ways. I think you, with Arthur, I think you had your son run off. So that's a little bit more towards trailing potentially and air scenting.
But right, again,
fantastic exercise.
Oh, it wasn't. Mine was basically, I was taught to make the dog so he can't see. Get my dog. I had to train him to put his paws over his eyes first of all, right? Like that. and then I would literally put the ball a few meters away so he could actually see it, right?
Yeah.
But then and then I would scuff my feet on the ground. And then what I would do is put the ball further away and further away so you can't see it. And then when he was air scenting, I was actually, when he was trying to get the shortcut, I was pulling the leash so he was forced to go via my foot track, and then he sort of associated the foot track with the reward, not necessarily just the air scent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I mean, when you do the food method, it's to try and encourage your dog's nose to the ground. Yeah. But then over time, as they get more proficient, actually you'll allow them to lift their head. I'm sure Arthur now he'll pick whether he decides to track.
Yes,
the trail.
I mean he's phenomenal.
There's another. Yeah.
Sticking his head, he's a phenomenal. Because what I said to the dog handler at the time, it's really weird. He's amazing because I'll chuck a tennis ball in a dense thicket when he's not even seeing where it is, and then I'll just go stick it out, and he will then spend the next 10 minutes with his nose in the air and zeroing it in, and he will get the ball even though he doesn't know which direction. Yeah. I have got this one dog here that was one of mine that I had difficulty with. I don't know if you could You think? Can you see that one, mate?
Brilliant.
This was. Oh, I can't move it. Yeah, I can. This.
That is a scary looking dog.
That is a scary looking dog, mate. But yeah, that was a foam chain, everyone, before you write in to complain. I don't know where you write into.
For me, dog training is, yeah, who'd you write into? W1A, what's the BBC?
Yeah, WT12, the Blue Peter one. Yeah. Right into Blue Peter.
Yeah. Dog training for me is about the dog, having as much fun as possible, being rewarded for it, learning for themselves as well. Because if they learn them for themselves, then it tends to last for much longer. But I could bore you all day long about dog training.
Oh well, you certainly know.
Enjoying this course.
No chance of. And tell me, why are you able to say why you're doing this? You're just trying to expand your knowledge, but also it's really good for you. If people are really interested in teaching their dogs, they can get in contact with you because you can train them privately, can't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Again, I think if you're in a big organization, and I'm not picking on the police, there's other organizations too. If you're in a big organization like that, you kind of get entrenched into their way. And I think sometimes it's really, really beneficial to step outside of that and try and find out why other people are doing things the way they're doing it. And same with any course you go on, you'll go on a course and they'll show you their way. And then you'll think, well, I like bits of that, but actually I didn't see the benefit of doing it like that. But actually, with my previous experience, I can add that and that to it. And you end up with your own way of doing it. But I do think it's vital, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're learning. I mean, the dog training world is huge. And there are a million ways to train a dog to do anything. But to go out and learn as much. I always say to new dog handlers and new instructors that it's important that you see as many different ways of training a dog as possible. And you need to see the bad as well as the good. Because if you see the bad, then you'll know how not to train a dog. And if you see the good, then you can nick bits from it, claim it's yours and move forwards.
Because I know that Gareth Greaves in with My Hero Theo book, which I've finished last week, was phenomenal. He was a guest on our podcast last week, was it? Yeah. And he said he had a little it was tricky for him initially to get the reward in at the right time, because the instructor would say, no, you've left it too late. And it was making sure that dog realized what it was all, what he was being rewarded for. And it's got to be instant. But there's Penny has a sausage dog there, or a dash hound, I think is the adult term
Penny
for
and
it.
Pickles, yeah.
I know we do. I know, so but I reckon you'd be all right, Penny, because she says Pickles can smell a little mouse off a mile away. But so you can see this is the dogs training on on firearms, of course, because they do this as well. And this is what you were in. You were involved with, Dave, as well? You with firearms, were you? Or
yeah, Finn was a firearm support dog from around his second birthday until he retired. So he did it for 6 years, which is quite a long time. Hero isn't yet a firearm support dog, but we haven't had a course up here in a long time. Her brother is, so she definitely has it in her. And this firearm support work really is certainly one of the pinnacles of police German Shepherdy type work, if you like. The Met have a different unit, the CTFSO, is it? Unit.
CTFSO,
their dogs really are
counter-terrorism specialist firearms officer. And they abseil outside helicopters and all that, but they wouldn't abseil inside them, would they? So you know what I mean. But I mean, I worked with an awful lot of firearms dogs, and they have to be capable of being quite quiet. It's no good if they're barking all the time, because we've been on live jobs where we don't really want to give the position away. They need to. The tricks with those, Dave, in particular, in contrast to a GPD dog, is a general purpose dog, is what exactly? What extra skills do they need?
So, I mean, we ask a huge. I'm not kidding you. I was having a joke with these guys today here Karen's wife was an Explode trainer and handler in the Met. And sorry, I'm going to lay down in the hay. Rob and I, who both handled GP dogs, we said, well, you're actually, that's cheating because you're only asking your dog to do one thing, and that's to search. Whereas German Shepherds, we ask them to search and track and obedience and agility, and we ask them to chase baddies and take them down. So what we ask of just our normal, and there is nothing normal about it, but what we ask of our normal GP dogs is huge. We ask so much of them. So when you see a police dog, do doff your hat to them, because they are absolutely amazing. But the firearm support dogs are the next level up. They really are. They're like the cream of the crop, which is already the cream of the crop. Because we need them to have that even temperament, but we also need them to be hugely brave, and we need them to cope with working with sometimes a massive team of people, whereas normally they're just used to working with mum or dad. And we need them to not bite that massive team of people. And that team of people are sometimes effing and jeffing at the subject, and you need your dog to go, well, you're working with me, so I won't bite you.
Well, and that's exactly it, because when we are in a team there, you have to learn when to challenge for people, for offenders and things like that. Because, like I say, if the dog's behind and the dog knows something's up, it's waiting there and waiting, and we see a subject suddenly there, and we go, oh, please, or whatever. There's a reasonable chance the dog will look around for the first thing to bite. So we did have a little nibble. One of our guys did have a little nibble.
There have been a few firearms officers bitten over the years.
Yeah, I would have considered it a badge of honour, mate, personally. But exactly. One of my good friends,
pulling your trousers down now you'd be pulling your trousers down now to show if you've been bitten on the bum,
show the scars.
That's normally where they get bitten. They all get bitten on the back of the leg or the bum. Often when we're going tracking as GP handlers, we go on our own. So someone will say, do you want me to come with you? And you're always like, no, we'll go on our own. But when you're tracking in a firearms job, and Finn's had many successful tracks on a firearms job, you've got what do they call it? A chevron of firearms officers behind you, and they're talking and they're doing updates and they're thinking about their tactics and updating their tactics and updating. And then your dog will change direction, and you'll have to put the dog in the down so that the OFC can then reassess, because there could be a building in the distance that you're heading to.
Well, this is it. So it's interesting because even though we never worked together, we were in different forces. I was a OFC, Operational Farms Commander. It's sort of the team leader of a job, and we would put someone with the dog handler, because they'd have what was called is it called the Wolf system still, or is it something else? It's the camera on the back of the dog. We used to have Wolf. There's different makes around, and so somebody then would be with the dog handler, because the dog handler would naturally want to be up the front, getting in the thick of it. They need to learn to keep back. Move. And exactly that, and of course. The armed officers need to keep quiet at certain times, and we use these commands so that the dog handler knew when we wanted the dog up, and then when we wanted it into the place, and then we were looking the video, and of course the video is just like this, but you get used to and the dog handler would describe exactly what the dog was seeing and where it was going, and so it's quite a skill, because if you give that live video to the layperson, it would just look like you've dropped the camera,
But a massive adrenaline buzz for the whole team, whether it's training or a live job. It's incredible.
And just to go, there's just a couple of photos I'm going to shove up, because a lot of these are interspersible, because you obviously drive. Are you standard driving course? Are you advanced?
No, we're standard.
I say standard. Standard is still a very high level, and it's pursuits. It's standard. It's 4-week or 5-week course still, and then the advance is another 4 or 5 week course. I forget which now. And those are refresher training. You have TPAC, which is tactical pursuit and containment. That's what it is. I nearly forgot, but you can see the environments where we will learn how to. This is LOE, is sort of, or MOE is method of entry. So we spend days bashing indoors, and these are structures that are made of lots of metal. We put wooden pegs, so we know what it is when there's locks on the bottom, middle, whatever, and it's very effective. And how to bash a door in without being shot, which is always quite a useful one. And of course, we work very much alongside the dogs in our training as well. And again, this will probably remind you of certain things as well, won't it, Dave? Is how was Finn in a helicopter?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, he did it a couple of times. Then, unfortunately, we lost our force helicopter, so it was a little bit more tricky to get one in to kind of train them. But it is actually part of the firearm support course, is to familiarise a dog with a helicopter. I was never lucky enough to do an actual call out, but I have one colleague who I think they were actually training at the time, and they were in the helicopter. And they got a job, and so they thought, you know what, let's just plop the dog out the door and let them go and see what they can do. So, but yeah, he was brilliant. He couldn't care less. I mean, he sat on a plane on the way next to me on a plane to Florida and back. He was very chilled out.
Oh, yes. I want to just go on.
The pilots and the observers do get a bit twitchy when the dogs come in.
Well, of course they do. And I remember a couple of live jobs that I was on where it was going to be an hour by car, or it was just over 15 minutes by heli. So I went in the heli. Of course, I don't have a dog, but I have stun grenades and weapons. I personally chose there. I didn't think the necessity was there, so I left the stun grenades behind. You don't want little accidents in the helicopter, do you, like that? But of course, I've still got a lot of firepower with me, and you can't be too careless up there. A negligent discharge up there would be a little bit cheeky. But of course, this gives us a good idea of rain. I thought I was taking a photo. This was a selfie for a tweet, which was very unlike me, as you remember. But these are the weather. You're there doing your tracking training in. But you had a couple of days ago. It was horrendous weather, wasn't it? But here, have a look at this was on our. This is our external quarry.
Oh, it's video. Oh no, it's video.
Whoa. Look at you! All your firearms officers hiding.
Look,
it's raining. Help me!
We've just been down there. We've just been in the. Look at my hair. Proof. Wet. You can see when I'm actually doing this, I'm actually teasing the other firearms officers because they don't want to be on video.
Yeah. It's great fun. You only get wet once.
It used to get so wet. You used to put the targets on the top of you and just walk down picking up empty shells. I always had this feeling that actually, do you know what? There's only so wet you can get, and to be a dog handler, you've got to be exactly like that. You can only be so wet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As soon as your underpants are soaking wet, you can't get.
It's that first cold drip into your underpants, or down the front. Yeah, I know. You just think, oh well, that's it. We're knackered now.
Yeah,
that's how it is. Yeah, I know, mate. But that's not working there. But yeah, so the best thing is it's all weathers, all terrains, isn't it? And you just don't know what you're going to get from now. Dog training, the scent, remind me, is cold, dry weather, good or bad? Wet, warm weather, good or bad?
Scent needs moisture. Scent doesn't really exist unless there's moisture. So damp, cool mornings are brilliant. Boiling hot, 35-degree, no wind at all would be the opposite end of the scale. But, having said that, Finn has pulled. I spoke about the Simon Pegg burglar, but Finn has also, and that was 35-degree hit midsummer's afternoon. An hour later, really? He's also had results in the absolute torrential rain, 50-mile-an-hour wind, where the textbook says there should be no scent left, and he's still tracked and found someone.
Wow!
So although there are sort of parameters that we tend to work in. We're pretty lucky in this country, to be fair. I've got friends out in Florida and America where the temperatures can be absolutely astronomical, and these dogs still work and still get results.
Now, Lizzie has just requested snow, and obviously I remember when I went in the snow. I know, but I remember when I went into the snow actually, and you just suddenly realise, oh, now I know what a dog feels like, because you see all these tracks around, and it's almost, they get that through their scent, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's something and when it's snow, it's visible, so you can actually see where people have gone and whatever. But ultimately, if you've got,
it's a good point you make there. It's almost impossible, because we're such a sighted species. It's almost impossible for us to figure out how dogs see the world. And when you're working one and you see them using their nose, you know, they build up a 3D picture of the world through their nose. If you could put, and this is very difficult to do, so we're very sight orientated. We lost our sense of smell many years ago because we're not very good hunters using our nose, but dogs still are. If you could turn the nose of a dog into a sight analogy, and this is just one person's analogy, what you can see fairly clearly a quarter of a mile away, a dog would be able to see in New York. Now, again, that's turning the nose into eyes, so it's not exactly the same. But if you
okay,
you know, their sense of smell,
and when you see,
listen to,
because they say a little particle of blood in the water with sharks, for example, can be over miles and miles and miles. So that makes total sense. That I remember Kai. I remember the police dog Kai very well. This Devon and Cornwall police dog. Loved it when the Force helicopter Oscar 99 would fly over. It's called MPAS now, of course. He would run out to the end of our cliff and bark happily. Well, at least hopefully he knew where the end of the cliff was, so that was useful, I was just. But here's a early day. Now, this was a little while ago now. This was me on my training, one of the training days. We do have an inside. You haven't even
got a beard there, Harry. It doesn't look like you can grow facial hair there.
I'm trying to look cool in my shades there. Look. No, that's the MP5, and there's a Glock, and that was a long time ago. And
about 12 there.
Yeah, because what we have in Devon and Cornwall, we have an inside range, a 50-meter range, and we have a 100-meter range outside in the quarry. And of course, we don't choose it when it's nice weather. We choose it when we need to qualify to certain distances and things like that. So that was the sort of thing. And then, so I mean, I personally adored my training, especially the shooting side of things. And it is, I think people would be surprised how intense it is and how much you actually do need to know. And it's not just shooting down a range, it's the building entries, and the vehicles and things like that. So driving, for example, now this is one thing we call this TPAC. And this is how we would, I'll just start that again a minute when it's on the camera. So this is where we train on a runway, a private runway. I'll just mute the screen there. So we are literally inches, and sometimes you're nudging the cars in around you. You're doing like a red arrows thing around the runway. And the runway, actually, they have roads that lead onto it, and then it will bear around to the right. This was one of the early ones. And you can see it's 2,000 players. This was a 2016, we did. And we do this every year. And it's just so that we are, when we're doing this exact thing at 85 miles an hour on the motorway, we're comfortable with it. And it is a lot of fun, but you don't want to get it wrong. You don't want to, and
right.
But you can see whilst you're so close, if you do hit each other, it's very gentle. It's like they call it it's like if it was a boxer, and you're getting really close. You can't get a punch in, but if you've got space, wow, that car can cause some damage. And the reason we would do this is TPAC. You've seen it on TV, so I can mention it. It's where you have the three vehicles, one behind each other, and then we basically surround and drag off the offender without them even knowing. And they may see one police car, but they don't know the two are behind it. And the reason we have to get so close behind it is so that they can't see the other two. And when we go around bends, we need to make sure that that's still the case. So it's all good fun, and then we've got, of course, the building entries and things like that. But I mean, what's the bit you most enjoy, Dave? Is there one bit that you particularly like in training?
I mean, I love all of it. Getting into a dog's mind is amazing. But for me, it's tracking. I love tracking. Just to when you turn up to crime scene, there is no big neon sign saying, the baddie ran this way, and it's all down to your dog to figure it out. And, I read a scientific paper a few weeks ago that said a dog needs 5 footsteps to work out which direction it goes in, which to the layperson, you might think, oh, well, yeah, great, fine. But so what the dog is learning or figuring out in those 5 footsteps is which footstep came before the next. Well, when you think about when you walk, one footstep is what? I don't know, a tenth of a second older than the next one. So in a dog's mind, 5 footsteps, it works out which direction they're going because of the time difference in those footsteps, which is a tenth of a second. So one or a half a second, whatever it is. So one footstep smells slightly different to the next one because there's a quarter of a second time difference, and then the dog can tell which direction it's going. That's absolutely insane. These dogs, their noses are just phenomenal. So anything to do with the dogs, I love all the biting, I love all all that sort of stuff, the obedience, that some people get a real kick out of that. I quite enjoy that. The agility's good, but anything that uses their nose just blows every time.
I have to say, I see, as a complete non-expert, I think I'd get my kick from that. I'm not really bothered about them running through tubes and jumping over ladders. It's agility is important. You need to get to the offender if they're over a hedge and fence and things. Yeah. But I can see, but basically they're hunting for food, aren't they? They're looking for food.
Yeah.
But here's just my side of training, because yours is a lot more interesting because we've got you here. So this was just this just gives you an idea of some of the training we do. Let's see if this will start. There we go. There it is. You can probably see. So here you would have, there's the targets. You'll see them actually turning, and there's friendly targets and there's baddie targets. And this is just to make sure that, and this was double the distance we've sort of run up and carried on doing certain things, but one of the instructor's faces was seen, so I couldn't show it. But it does just show you've got to be sort of, when you're looking down that sight and you've just run, even if it's 20 meters, it's just getting that break, controlling your breathing, and then being able to judge as well. So, if there's a target and you think, is he wearing it? Has he got a gun or has he not got a gun? And you've got to make these really quick decisions. And even if it's for these things, the training is completely about, and this will be the same for you, Dave. It's about that national decision model, isn't it? It's basically, for people who are not aware, it's gathering all the information and intelligence that's available, and it's how to deal with that and how much force to use. And it's assessing the threat and risk, and then considering all your powers and policies. Is it lawful? Can you do that sort of thing? And identifying what options you have. So Dave will be thinking, can I release my dog now because I haven't got, it's sort of the minimal force I can use in these circumstances because he's running away and he's going to get away. And what happens with contingencies, with firearms sort of thing? What if it happens they give themselves up? Have we got enough officers to deal with them? What if he gets into the car? What if he runs into the school? What's our contingency? What are we going to do next? And as a firearms tactics advisor, that was always in my mind. What if, and are we ready for it? And then of course you take action, but then that's not the end of it. You start again and you say, okay, what's my information and intelligence again? And as well as that, with a firearms tactics advisor, you're sort of considering, okay, what do we know about the subject themselves, the victims themselves, associates, cars, and often with that, I would be sometimes guilty of forgetting to ask for certain things like the dog units. And I don't know, Dave, your force is very automatic. I see you on a lot of ARV convoys where you're going to collect nasty people, and you're always tagging on the end, it seems.
So our ops inspector, that's obviously they want we've got a separate channel that we sit on where firearms, dogs and traffic sit, and when the ops inspector calls up, he will call for the firearms units to acknowledge their call signs, and then he wants a dog on the end. It's obviously a less than least lethal force option for them, They obviously have lots of other skills and search skills as well, which may come into play. So, yeah, in beds, hearts, and cams, they're very good at calling for dogs, and I know lots of other counties are as well when it comes to firearms jobs. And you know what, the firearms boys and girls love to have the dogs there. I lost count.
Oh, we do.
Totally I lost count of the amount of times that baddies have given up to the dog, and that's not downplaying firearms. That's why they use the dogs, because they look so ferocious. Yeah, I am. Yeah,
he's just having a dig, another dig. That's all he does. That's all he does.
Yeah. Well, because they spend all the money on you lot, we don't get anything.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got to get the dig for a cat.
We're delicate people. We need looking after.
Oh.
We were. He was. But Dave, you're absolutely right. When the dog turns up, it's a bit like, even though they won't admit it, I think when Joe Public are in distress and the sorry, I'll spit it out in a minute. The uniform cops turn up.
Patrol. Harry, come on.
I know, yeah. So when the beat cops turn up, it's like, oh, thank God for that. And when there's a bad accident and the traffic turn up, the beat cops go, oh, thank God for that. And when there's some bloke running around with a machete or knife, gives them more option when the ARVs turn up. It's like, oh, thanks God for that. But all of that, I've got to say, is trumped with the dogs, because the dog can do pretty much. They're not very good at shooting straight, but they don't need to sometimes.
No.
So, it is.
The saying is when the public need help, they call the police, and when the police need help, they call the dog.
That's so true. It is so true. Look, here's another wet photograph. People may have seen before, but that was us wet. That's me with the yellow eyes, the jaundice eyes. But again, this was training with trains, and what do we do? And it's all to do with terrorism and that sort of thing. So what happens if they hijack a train, and how do we deal with it? And it's just dealing with, how do you get up to the doors? Because the doors are all designed for platforms. So what we didn't want to do, and this is where nationally, this is exactly the same for every force, so you're well looked after, people, is that there's methods, and we do the training in all weathers, like you can see there, to make sure we can get up to these places and see how we as safely as possible clear a train, and go do it as long as possible, as quickly as possible. Because, as I said, you've got to be in at least equal danger to the public, in my view. You can't be less danger than the public. So if there's a gunman in the train, we got to stick someone in the train. And so yeah, that's it. But it concentrates the mind.
Yeah.
But so it is all good fun. We're running. Look, 16:58. We've got 2 minutes left. 8, 9, 10.
I feel like I cheated you, Harry, because I did leave you hanging. I was having a cup of tea and a nice cake. No, I wasn't. We were just finishing off the search sessions. I couldn't just walk out.
It was, well, you know me. I was lost for words. I didn't know what to say. So I had a fill-in, actually. My wife has bought one of those paddling pools for the dogs to keep them cool in the summer. And she bought this at the beginning of July, and I think he's used it twice, and only when we're in it with him, But so guess what? She's using it for the winter. For Arthur, not that he's spoiled, she's got these. It's now so he will love that a lot more. Arthur will love that.
Yeah.
Where is he? Yeah, he's somewhere around. I don't know. But mate, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you get on. Have you finished your course? Is it last day today? Or?
No. One more day to go, and then I come back in a few weeks' time to do another part of it, which I'm really, really looking forward to. So yeah, any dog training needs of anybody out there, give us a shout. And if we're not local to you, we'll be able to find someone who is.
And we'll just keep the Thin Blue Paw is the charity, your charity, isn't it? To help. I've got that right, haven't I?
Yeah. So there are a number of police dog charities in the country. Most of those are localised. Well, all of them are localised. But the Thin Blue Paw fills in for the 32 forces that don't have a charity for their retired police dogs. And yeah, it's very exciting. We've got lots of forces that are really interested to help us, and we've got lots of the outside world in wanting to form partnerships with us. So watch this space. But yeah, thinbluepaw.org. And then see if you can donate or help us in some way. It'd be incredible.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. I just did an MD there. I don't know what. Help me, Dave Northants. Oh, I don't know what that is. Hopefully, you're not
dog
hanging
training.
on the edge
It'll
of the
be
cliff.
Dog training. No.
Oh, right. Okay, that's good.
Dave,
it's been emotional. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us again. And we will hopefully see you next week. And we'll probably have a guest. We've got an idea about guests. But if you've got any suggestions, whack it over to us. There's various ways to get to see us. We remember we do. That's a beautiful picture. That actually. That is lovely, Dave, actually. So if I could just enlarge you like that, that would be useful, but I don't think I can. No, I can only do it for you. Sorry. Yeah, but remember, guys, you can get us on YouTube. It's called Frontline Chat on YouTube. Trying to build the following for that. That's all our things together. And also you can catch us on things like Spotify and stuff like that by just searching for Frontline Chat again. All right. Lovely. Catch you later, guys.
Take care. Bye.